Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my favorite brushes video, and mostly I use MAC, Morphe, and Sigma. There are other brands thrown in there that I do use as well, but those are my top three and in order of preference. Though I don't think you need MAC brushes, there's definitely other options out there. For affordable brushes, my favorite are Morphe. I think Morphe has a ton of dupes for MAC brushes, so does Sigma, so you don't need a single MAC brush if you don't want. I love some Morphe brushes more than I like MAC, and I love some Sigma more than I love those two brands as well. So it really just depends on the brush, which I prefer, but those are definitely my top three. If you want to know some of my favorite brushes, then just keep watching. One of my favorite brushes is the MAC 135 brush, and Morphe also has a brush that is very similar to this brush for a dupe. It is the Morphe M527, so you see me use both of these in videos, and the only difference between the two, Morphe is a little bit thicker. Some of the bristles are fraying a bit, and there's a couple random black hairs in the Morphe one. So I think that's just maybe a quality issue, but for the price, I would definitely go with the Morphe one. I know there's a lot of people on YouTube who are Morphe affiliates. I am not one of them. I have purchased all my Morphe brushes myself. They recently contacted me saying they were going to send me some Morphe brushes, so in the future maybe I will be an affiliate of Morphe, but as of right now I'm not. But if you look up a lot of bigger YouTubers on here, you will see coupon codes for Morphe for 10% off and things like that. So there are coupon codes out there for Morphe if you ever want to purchase, but I do not have one as of this moment. Back to the brushes, the Morphe one is slightly rougher. The MAC one is ultra soft. There is not a single bit of rough bristle in it. This one has a couple, but as I said, I think it's just a quality issue because there are a couple black hairs in this brush, but for the price I would definitely just go with the Morphe. I've never had an issue with Morphe ferrules coming loose, and I don't experience a ton of shedding with Morphe. Sigma I do, MAC even there's some I do. Morphe I haven't experienced too much shedding, but there are some brushes that just naturally shed more than others. And I love these kind of brushes for powder or mostly just bronzing up my face. It's really nice because you can get kind of a contoured bronze look because of the shape of these brushes, and just go in and bronze up your whole face, and this is one of my newest favorite brushes. For blush, I either like to go in with a duo fiber like this, or I go in with my Morphe E4 brush. I know Jaclyn Hill made this really popular. It's good if you want a, I'd say if you want a more pigmented look, like that it's angled. This you can do so much with, so it's definitely a very versatile brush, the Morphe E4. I prefer dual fiber brushes in the most part for almost everything, and this is the Morphe M404, and I also have the MAC 188 as well. So very similar. The MAC one is a little shorter and not as fanned out, but pretty much the same thing. And I like these type of brushes, these smaller dual fiber brushes, to apply blush to my face, and sometimes in the summer when I want a sheer look to my foundation, I'll use this for maybe a tinted moisturizer or something like that. But I'm ride or die for the Beauty Blender. If you guys watch my channel, Beauty Blender over everything for me, so that's my number one, a Beauty Blender. I'll show you mine right now. It's probably dirty. Number one brush or makeup tool product is my Beauty Blender. This isn't saturated with water yet, so it's natural size. This does expand when you do run water over it and squeeze it out. It will expand. This is my favorite thing to apply facial makeup, even powder, liquid foundation, anything. I think this is the best for it because I have dry skin, so I do prefer a Beauty Blender over any brush pretty much. So for face, Beauty Blender all the way. Two recent loves of mine, which I think are not essential, but I wanted to mention them anyways, just in case you're looking for a couple new brushes. I'm always looking to try new things. So I have the Oval 6 and the Oval 3 from MAC. These are like the Artiste brushes that are really popular right now. And I love these for cream products, especially the Oval 3 for my nose contour, for blending that out. I think it's phenomenal for doing that. If you've ever used these for cream, you will notice how smooth it blends it out. And this one for foundation even, I'm die hard for a Beauty Blender, but I did try this. If I want a more full coverage look, I'll use a brush. 90% of the time I will use a Beauty Blender, but when I do want a full coverage look, this is fantastic for that. And the bristles don't eat up your product. I find this, you need the least amount of product to get a full coverage look, this brush in particular, because it doesn't soak up like virtually no product. So this is really, really good in the long run, I think, because it doesn't eat up all your product. So good for just buffing out your foundation. And these are made to be used on yourself as opposed to someone else. It's kind of hard to manipulate these brushes for someone else. That's why there are brushes like this, because they're made for makeup artists to do makeup work on clients. These ones are designed to do makeup on yourself. So that's why they work really good for foundation and contour, or contour with this brush. So definitely some cool brushes to check out, which I have been loving, but they're not essential. I just think they're really cool. I used to be ride or die for my NARS Ita. My Cinema Secrets brush cleaner kind of ate this one up. I don't think it's an essential, but I do like it for quick contouring when I'm using powder, and also for my nose contour. If I want something really quick and fast, I'll reach for this. And then for powder for baking underneath my eyes or light application of powder, I love the MAC 137, and this is one of the MAC brushes I think is absolutely worth the price as opposed to any other brand. MAC 137, highly recommend if you do the baking technique or if you have dry skin and just like a light application of powder. This is one of my favorite brushes, so MAC 137. For nose contour, I love my Zoeva 109 face paint brush. This is also good for contouring your face as well, but I just think it's perfect for powder nose contour. It's just the exact length of my nose, and this works really well for me, and I get a nice straight line, super easy, super quick. For powder underneath my eyes, if I'm not using my beauty blender, which 99% of the time for my under eye I will, I do use this for powder on occasion when I don't want it as heavy. I use the MAC 159, which is a nice dual fiber brush. I use this today to apply powder underneath my eyes just because I want a really nice light application of it, and that's good for that. It's also good if you have cream product you want to put underneath your eyes just because of the dual fiber, and I love dual fiber because it applies less product, more natural. You can use this for blush, anything. MAC 159, it's really, really good. For highlight, I used to use fan brushes all the time, but I think it can get a little bit messy using a fan brush because they're so big. So I do prefer these two brushes for highlight. You could definitely use just a eyeshadow blending brush if you have something like this, like the Sigma E40, I believe it is. It's kind of rubbed off. Yeah, the Sigma E40 you could totally use for precise application of your highlight. But if you want two really good brushes for highlight, looking for a couple new brushes, these are really great for highlight. So if I want a really standout highlight, I'll use the Morphe M501. It's a little bit more dense, so I like using that when I really, really want to glow. Today I didn't put as much on. It applies it a little bit more sheer. It has the white goat hair brushes, so it applies it a little bit more sheer, which I like for more natural makeup days. And it's a little bit bigger, so you do have to be careful if you apply it too much, but this is a little bit more precise, more dense, and this one, the M510, is just a little bit bigger but applies it a little bit lighter. So I do like both these brushes depending on what I'm going for my highlight from Morphe. These are really good. For myself, but also mainly for clients, I don't like to use my fingers around their eyes or anything like that. Unless it's someone I know, then I don't really care that much because they don't care. But for a client or myself, you've seen me do this before, but I like the Sigma Large Fluff E50 or the MAC 227. They're both very similar, but the Sigma one is cheaper, so definitely recommend that. And I haven't had any issue with this shedding or the ferrule coming loose, but some of my Sigma brushes I've had issues with the ferrules coming loose lately, and I think it has to do with their early release of brushes, because I did pick them up right when they were starting out, and a lot of those haven't held up for me, but their quality has vastly improved, especially their ferrules. They're patent pending, and I find they hold up a lot better than they used to, but there are some Sigma brushes I do have issues with, even though I'm an affiliate. Very straightforward about having issues with Sigma brushes, but they're also really good about replacing them if, say, you get a brush and it breaks. That's really good for customer service, but as I said, they're the only kind of brushes that I've really ever had an issue with the ferrules breaking off. So I like to let my viewers know about that. But back to these brushes, I like to put under eye cream with these, and they're very, very good, very gentle, very soft if you're putting cream on a client underneath their eyes or for yourself. So I really like the Sigma E50 Large Fluff or the MAC 227, both the same thing. For brows, my favorite brow brush since like the dawn of time has been my Makeup Forever, and it just says eyebrow brush on it, so there's no number or anything, but it's very tiny, very dense, perfect for brows, and it's just been my favorite for years and years. You've seen this in my last brush favorites video. Still my favorite, going strong with that one. If I'm doing gel liner, my favorite is the MAC 210 brush. I typically will not bother with gel liner on myself. It's just, I'm kind of lazy, to be honest. I prefer a pen or a liquid liner because just digging around in gel, putting it on with a brush is just one too many steps for me. I just like going straight with the product. So, but if I'm doing it on a client, I love my 210 because it's very precise, very thin. I can get really close to their lash line and it's not going to go anywhere. I can get a really clean, crisp line with the MAC 210. For concealer application underneath the eyes, I have two brushes I really like. For my Becca brightening corrector, I've been really loving my MAC 195. It's a synthetic concealer brush, and it's really good for blending that product out, not getting too much, having it too heavy underneath that eye because you don't want to put too much product there because else it will cake up. That's when your under eye area will look aged, when there's too much product under there and it's caking up. So you don't want that to crease. This is a really good brush. You can use it for your concealer as well, if say it's a potted one, or for just blending out. But for buffing it out really well if you want to brush, I love the MAC. This is worn off. I've used it so much. It's the 130. Looks like this. It's a small little dual fiber. I'll use this for foundation, concealer, anytime I want to buff with a brush. Love this brush so much. It's a little bit more dense, a little bit shorter. That's why I really like it. For lip application, I love using this brush from MAC, but I've actually found ones that are more affordable, a little bit smaller, a little bit more precise. So the MAC one is the 231, great for lip application, and I love how it's curved, very thin, so you can really curve out your lips. I found a couple other ones from Morphe, which are great dupes, not exactly the same. One's a little bit longer and thinner, and the other one's shorter and thinner. So I think the more detailed, the better personally, but I will use all three. If you like MAC, there's the MAC option. If you like Morphe, here's a Morphe option. So I have the Morphe E35 and E39. The E39 is a little bit longer than the E35. So it's really about preference. And I probably, since it's longer, it's a tiny bit more flimsy, very minimal though. So I do probably would prefer the E35, but if you want to cover a little bit more area, maybe the E39, so it's up to you. Both really good brushes for detail work if you're applying liquid lipstick out of the tube, if you want to take it off the applicator, if you're mixing liquid lipsticks, or just blending out products, or on clients. It's great to have a bunch of these. These are my favorite lip brushes. This isn't a brush, but it's something from Sephora, which you can get with the brushes. It's just a little spatula. And if you're like me and you have a foundation that's in a glass jar or anything with an opening, you can dig in. There's so many applications left in a jar after you think you finished it, just from what is around the product. So I always go in after with a spatula and clean out my jars because you can get several uses out of what's left in your jar, and it's just really handy to have. This is Sephora brand. A lot of the times it is out of stock because it is quite popular, I believe, but if you want to really get your money's worth from a foundation or any product in a little jar, get yourself a spatula. Essential. And now for eye brushes. I don't have too many that I was going to talk about. It might look like a lot to you, but these are just my favorite in general eye brushes. My number one for eye brushes is the Morphe M433 brush. It's like the MAC 217. A lot of brands do this brush. I've pretty much tried them all, and the Morphe one is definitely my favorite. It's really soft, and you can use this for a multitude of things. This would probably be the only blending brush I would ever need. M433, so one of my essentials. For buffing out the crease, I have 4 brushes I wanted to talk about. The Morphe M441 is this. It is the white fiber brush, so it picks up a little less product. I've been really into the white-haired brushes or dual fiber brushes just because I find they blend a little bit better, they apply less product, and I don't have to go in and be like, whoops, I put too much on. So they work really well for me personally. So this is probably my new favorite for buffing out a transition color. Well, hold on. It might not be my favorite. I like these all for different reasons, honestly. So for me, I need them all. You probably would only need one of these if you're just starting out with makeup or whatnot. Even so, if you just get the one I talked about before is all you would really need. But as I said, if you want something else or if you're a makeup artist, this is really great for blending out that transition shade in the crease, the M441 or the Sigma E40, which is really great. This is a little bit more rough, and I have noticed a little bit of shedding with brushes like this. So that's why I kind of switched to these white-haired brushes, because this one I find it breaks off the bristles and I get them on my eyes. Another really great affordable brush that doesn't shed at all, which is amazing for crease work. It's a little bit tapered, so you can be a little bit more precise. So this one is one of my essentials. It is the MakeupGeek Soft Dome Brush. Love this brush, one of my holy grail brushes. Definitely check out the makeup brushes for affordable options. They have amazing face brushes, eye brushes. I need to pick up more. This one's just a ride or die of mine, but I do need to pick up more of the MakeupGeek ones. And then I just recently tried this one from NYX. So this is the NYX 16 brush. I only recently tried it, but it is so incredibly soft. It is the softest blending brush I've ever used. If you feel this, you will know what I'm saying, but it's so great for your buffing as well. Super soft. So if you have problems with scratchy brushes, highly recommend the NYX 16. Really good for blending out that crease. And then for detail work, I have multiples of this style of brush, different brands, but I have multiples of it. It's an essential of mine. It is the MAC 212, which I don't think you need the MAC one. Just wanted to tell you if you do prefer MAC. Then I have the Sigma Flat Definer E15. So I always call these flat definers. E15 from Sigma is amazing. So good. But as I said, multiple brands make this kind of brush. But it's great for underneath that lash line and getting a really precise line. And you can buff it out with a pencil brush or something like that. But to start out, this is so good for that. Cleaning up your brows with concealer, you can use this for so many different things. It's an essential. You need one of those. For any kind of loose pigment or a glitter or anything like that, I like a synthetic bristle brush for my eye area. This is the MAC 242 brush, and it's my favorite one from MAC that I definitely think that you need to spend the money on because it's really good. You could use a flat definer brush from Sigma or Morphe or something like that because they are synthetic as well. But they're squared off, so if you want a more rounded look, if you're cutting out your crease and you're really blending that shadow, I do prefer the MAC 242 and definitely think it's worth the money. For eyelid application, I've been kind of steering away from your standard, I'd say, eyeshadow applicator brush. And I love this MAC 213. It's a recent discovery of mine. It's a fluffy eyeshadow brush, so it puts it on a little bit lighter. If I want to go in real hard with that eyeshadow, I'll use the 242, but if I want like a softer look, I'll use the 213, and it's really great for that. And then two detailed brush that I love. The first is the MAC 228. I do love MAC brushes, I'm sorry, but this one is fantastic for inner corner highlight. I have really weird tear ducts. I don't know what it is. I've just noticed that from doing other people's eyes and doing their tear ducts, mine just seem to be a little bit weird. This just works really well for my tear ducts and that inner corner. So mine are a little bit weird, as I said, but this just works for me. I could use a different brush on another client and be fine, but the 228 is just really good for packing on that color and giving a nice shape to that inner corner for me. And then for a pencil brush, this is my absolute favorite. It's from Morphe. It's from their Elite collection. It's the E36. And it has the dual fiber, which I love, but it's super dense. So you can also really get a good buffing out of this. And it's not as thick as other pencil brushes. And it's not rough. It's super soft. So this is why I like the E36 for a pencil brush. So those are all my favorite brushes. I am an affiliate with Sigma, as I said, but you can get brushes from any company. I'm not an affiliate as of yet with Morphe. Maybe in the future I will be, so I can't offer you a discount code for them, but there's a ton of them out there if you search. MAC, I don't have a discount code. That would be pretty cool if I did. But those are my favorite ones, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video, my opinions on the brushes that are out there that are my favorite. There are quite a bit that I mentioned. You don't need all of them. They are just all the ones that I've really been liking lately and thought I would do a video on them. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, as I said, and I'll see you guys in my next one.